The plate hit the table with a sharp sound that made everyone in the restaurant turn. "Please, sir, just let me take this food home," the waitress whispered, her hands trembling. "My child hasn't eaten since yesterday." The manager stood over her, his face hard and cold. Around them, expensive chandeliers glittered above polished marble floors, while wealthy guests stared in uncomfortable silence. "You're embarrassing this restaurant," he snapped. "Take off your uniform. You're fired." The young waitress froze. Her eyes filled with tears as she looked down at the untouched food on the plate. She wasn't stealing it. She had only asked if she could take the leftovers home after her shift. "My little girl is waiting for me," she said softly. The manager pointed toward the exit. "Then go to her." She slowly reached for her bag, fighting back tears. But just as she turned to leave, the restaurant doors opened. A man in a dark suit stepped inside. The manager suddenly stopped breathing. Because the man who had just walked through those doors was the billionaire CEO who owned the entire restaurant. And he had heard everything. Before we continue, take a moment to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and tell us in the comments what you would have done if you had been there. Sometimes, one small act of kindness can completely change someone's life. The waitress's name was Emily. She was 27 years old and had been working at the restaurant for nearly 2 years. Every morning, she woke before sunrise, packed a small lunch for her 6-year-old daughter Lily, and hurried to work. Emily was raising Lily alone. Life had never been easy, but Emily refused to complain. She worked long hours, smiled at customers even when she was exhausted, and always made sure her daughter felt loved. That evening, Lily had been sick and had barely eaten anything all day. Emily had promised her, "Mommy will bring something home." So when her shift was almost over, Emily noticed a plate of untouched food left behind by a wealthy customer. The meal was perfectly good. Normally, the restaurant threw food like that away. She quietly approached the manager. "Sir, may I please take this home? My daughter is hungry." The manager looked at the plate, then at Emily. "No." Emily swallowed hard. "Please. It's going to be thrown away anyway." "I said no." Her voice became smaller. "She hasn't eaten since yesterday." The manager sighed angrily. "This is a luxury restaurant, not a charity." Several customers looked away. Emily's eyes filled with tears, but she lowered her head. "I'm sorry." That was when the manager fired her. She took off her apron with shaking hands and placed it on the counter. Then she picked up her bag and started walking toward the door. That was the exact moment the restaurant fell silent. The billionaire CEO, Daniel Carter, had entered. Daniel was known for being powerful, private, and extremely successful. But what most people didn't know was that he had grown up with very little. His mother had once worked 2 jobs just to keep food on their table. When Daniel heard the manager say, "Then go to her," something inside him changed. He looked at Emily. "Wait." She stopped. Daniel walked toward her. "Is what I just heard true?" Emily wiped her tears. "Yes, sir." "You asked to take food home for your daughter?" Emily nodded. "She's 6. She's hungry." Daniel looked at the untouched plate. Then he looked at the manager. "Why did you fire her?" The manager immediately became nervous. "Sir, she broke company policy." "What policy?" The manager hesitated. "She was trying to take food without authorization." Daniel stared at him. "She asked for permission." "Yes, but—" "And you fired her for asking?" The manager had nothing to say. Daniel turned back to Emily. "You're not fired." Emily looked confused. "Sir. You're promoted." The entire restaurant went silent. Daniel continued, "Starting tomorrow, you will be the assistant manager of this location." Emily could barely speak. But I don't understand. You showed compassion. You cared more about feeding your child than protecting your pride. Those are qualities this restaurant needs. Then Daniel looked at the manager. And you are no longer managing this restaurant. The manager's face went pale. Daniel didn't shout. He didn't insult him. He simply said, a business can make money without losing its humanity. Then Daniel asked Emily where her daughter was. At home. Has she eaten? Emily shook her head. Daniel immediately called his assistant. Find the best pediatrician available tonight. And send dinner to Emily's home. Emily began crying again. But this time, they were tears of relief. That evening, Daniel personally arranged a meal for Lily. He also made sure Emily received paid leave for the next few days. But he didn't stop there. A week later, Daniel announced a new policy across every restaurant his company owned. Employees facing hardship could request meals for themselves and their families. No employee would ever be punished for asking for basic help. And there was one more rule. Managers were required to treat every employee with dignity, regardless of their position. Months passed. Emily became one of the most respected managers in the company. She never forgot what happened that night. Whenever a new employee made a mistake, she remembered how frightened she had felt standing in that restaurant with tears in her eyes. So she chose patience. Whenever someone looked tired, she asked if they were okay. And whenever food was left over, she made sure it went to someone who needed it. One evening, Emily received a letter from Daniel. It contained only a few words. You reminded me of something I almost forgot. Success means nothing if we stop seeing people. Emily smiled. Years later, Lily would grow up knowing that one stranger had helped her mother during the hardest moment of her life. And Emily would always tell her daughter the same lesson. Never become too successful to be kind. Because sometimes kindness is not about giving someone thousands of dollars. Sometimes it is a meal. Sometimes it is patience. Sometimes it is simply saying, I understand. And sometimes, when someone is standing at the edge of giving up, one compassionate person can become the reason they keep going. So the next time you see someone struggling, don't be so quick to judge. You may not know what they are carrying. You may not know what they are fighting. And you may never realize how much your smallest act of kindness could mean to them. Because in a world where people often remember the money we made, the cars we drove, and the things we owned, the moments people remember most are usually much simpler. A helping hand. A kind word. A warm meal. A second chance. And sometimes, that is enough to change a life forever.